Good morning, and welcome to our update program. I'm your host, Mark Schaefer, and I'm joined in studio this morning by Deidre Pujols and Susan Schroeder. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys doing today?
We're awesome. I'm awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, you may recognize the name Deidre Pujols. She is the wife of Major League Baseball player Albert Pujols, a first baseman for the Angels, who's a three-time National League MVP award winner and two-time Golden Glove recipient. And Deidre, we're excited to have you here. You stand alone on your own right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
I've been doing this baseball thing with Albert for nearly 19 years.
Right.
So that's our life together, you know. But I'm a mom of five and philanthropist, entrepreneur. But I'm here today to talk about one of our newest initiatives, which is called Strike Out Slavery.
Right.
And I am really excited about it. And Susan's joining me because she's been right alongside me here in NOC, just really trying to push out the efforts to bring awareness and kind of campaign around the issues of human trafficking.
Great. And Susan, you are with the District Attorney's Office of Orange County, correct?
Yes.
What's your role there? So
4 years ago, the district attorney, Tony Rackauckas, he asked me to look into the human trafficking problem in Orange County. Well, I thought that would take 10 minutes. Well, it turns out Orange County is a destination place for human traffickers to bring victims here because they can get the most amount of money. And it was sickening. And so the DA decided that we're going to do something about it. We're going to change everything that law enforcement has been doing because it's not working. And we're going to do it in a way that we now call it the best practice model in the country, and other people have recognized as such.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about the best practice model.
Yes. So 3 congressmen came and asked us to present the way we do things because they had heard it was the best practice model in the country. And it's prosecution. We prosecute the heck out of them. Education. We not only educate the public, but we educate law enforcement to do it in a completely different way, which is the victim-centered approach. We start with the victim and then try to get the bad guys. And third is resources, which people like Didi come in. We can't just put the bad guys away.
Right.
We have to do things to restore the victims and get them out of the life. And finally, publicity. We publicize the heck out of these types of cases. We just recently got a 99 years to life. We've had 233 years to life. We will put every person who is guilty of purchasing a victim in Orange County, a prostitute in Orange County, we will put them on our website so that they can't do this in darkness. And so 4 years ago, we went to the Angels. The DA's office went to the Angels and asked them to put some kind of a day, help them raise awareness.
Sure.
And then Didi came from the other side, and we kind of met in the middle. And it's been an amazing partnership and just so wonderful to work with somebody who's dedicated and passionate about the subject as Didi.
Well, and I think passionate's a great word to describe what I've read so far about you, Deidre, or Didi. Why don't you tell me about Strike Out Slavery? Where'd the concept come from? How did you come up with this?
Well, it's really only been a year-long, I would say, thinking, talking, discussing, and preparing. But it started with, I called my agents one day and I said, hey, I'm going to be in New York with Albert because he was playing the Yankees, I believe. And I said, I'd like a meeting with MLB. And my agent kind of laughed at me because, I'm like, I'll be there Tuesday, hook it up. And so basically he laughed, but the All-Star game was happening somewhere around that time, and so they weren't available. But they did open up their calendar for a couple weeks later. So Albert and I flew on one of his off days from here to New York to sit down specifically with their offices. And MLB has, a humanitarian or...
Oh, I'm sure.
They have a whole social responsibility department. And so we sat down with them and had just this really passionate conversation because what had happened was I was traveling all over the world as well as spending time in D.C. and other parts of the country meeting with NGOs and different groups who are fighting human trafficking.
Right.
I really say I kind of went on this world education of what this is. What does it look like in different parts of the world? Watching documentaries, calling people, just educating myself, really. And by the time I came back, I began to ask myself, how could I do anything about this, with who I am and my gifts and talents? And one of the obvious things was our platform in baseball. Now, Major League Baseball was really encouraged by the conversation. What I offered to do was take back experts, people who know and have been in this for years.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I took a panel of people that I have met along my education, and we had an awesome dialogue. There's probably 20 of us at this roundtable discussion. It was really powerful. And they were still very open, but when you talk about issues of human trafficking, the language can get perplexing. The messaging could be perplexing if you don't know enough about it.
Okay.
And so what I decided to do was to come back here to OC, sit down with the Angels. That meeting, Tony was in, Susan was in, and a couple of law enforcement were there, as well as a whole panel of the NGOs and other groups who fight human trafficking or in the efforts, to fight it, and myself and Albert. And we just had this roundtable discussion about the opportunity to bring this awareness and education into the stadium, and they were open to it. And so this was last off season, at the end of the year, I believe.
It was December.
December of last off season. And so from then till now, we've been planning a way to create an environment that is palatable and powerful. It's a safe place to learn and be educated and get awareness about the issues of human trafficking from people who are in it every day.
Right.
And so that's happening on September 16th at Angel Stadium. Strike Out Slavery is our name. And it's going to be a fun day before a game. We're going to have a family festival behind the fountains.
I was looking at that. You're going to have it out on the patio out there.
Yeah.
You're going to have different ministries and organizations there who have been dealing with human trafficking. You're going to have free ID checks for the kids. And that's really exciting.
Susan's also going to be there with the group they formed called HEAT. And they'll have a table as well. And some law enforcement, I believe, some of the people from Human Trafficking Task Force will be at that booth. And the idea is just to engage with fans, especially parents who need to learn about this to protect their kids. So we'll have that pregame event, and then the game, of course, where we win.
Concert after the game,
It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be full and rich. And I'm just encouraged by...
Do me a favor, for fans, for listeners who want to get more information on this, what is the website, the best place for them to go?
So strikeoutslavery.com is where they can find all the information.
Okay.
In efforts to help launch the campaign, a few weeks ago, we are doing a fundraiser through CrowdRise. It's called a Hero and Living Legends Experience.
Right.
With Albert Pujols, and it's a long list of prizes.
Quite a list of prizes, yeah.
It's really cool, though, and he's been generous enough to lend himself that day for different things like autographs, and the person who wins will be able to throw out the first pitch, and, of course, meet players, come to the concert, a free night stay in a hotel.
Wasn't there a dinner involved, too, or a lunch?
Yeah, we'll have dinner with the winner at the Portofino Hotel, and... it's a prize worth winning if you're a baseball fan and want to come out and help us. And that person also will get to see what they gave to, and they'll get to see these organizations. Right. So there'll be 8 organizations that benefit from the fundraiser. Yeah,
and I wanted to get into those organizations, but one of the things I wanted to just bring it kind of home for me and for our listeners is I remember growing up here in Orange County. I was a huge Angels fan way back in the day. And I remember getting on my bike in the morning and riding up the river trail because I lived in Santa Ana, and I'd ride to Angel Stadium. We'd watch games with my dad. We'd ride back home. We thought nothing of going out in the street, day in, day out. Mom, I'll see you when dinner's ready, and just take off. I fast forward now to 2017, and the way my wife and I are with our children today. I have an 11-year-old and a 17-year-old, and we would never let them do that. I mean, and it's because of this issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think as far as our area, she could probably speak more into just the things that we're dealing with, in the way of crime and criminals and the activity that happens, because she does that every day, But I'm the same. Like, I'm very protective.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, the sad thing is the average age that a child gets trafficked is 12 to 14. It's shocking. And we are seeing that in in our prosecutions as well. In fact, 50% of the victims that we rescue are minors. It's just so shocking.
50%.
Not only, but here's the thing: you can be as careful as you want as a parent, and keep your 11-year-old and 17-year-old from going out into the public. The problem is these traffickers are coming into your home, and we don't know it.
Right.
They're coming into your home through their cell phone, through social media,
Yeah.
and innocent things like, and I don't even want to promote the names, but it could be any social media.
Sure, sure.
And they're coming into your home every day, and that's what's shocking. And we've had victims. Some of the profiles of our victims are those who are abused and neglected, but there are victims who come from very good homes, and it's because children are vulnerable and they don't understand. They don't understand that somebody who is posing as another child could be a 50-year-old man.
And we go through that with my son all the time. He's on some game platforms. We just brought in an organization to teach him about the cyber crimes and about, the baiting that they do. And like you said, it's just changed so much. My father was Santa Ana PD for 22 years. And so he was very careful with us, but we still had such liberties that we don't have today. And I know it's because there's so many predators out there. Now, these children, they don't just come from Orange County, though, right? This is a global crime, a global crisis, a global pandemic, however you want to describe it.
So most of our victims are American citizens, about 72% of them.
Okay.
There's certain victims who are brought here from other countries. They're promised good jobs. And there's also not just sex trafficking, but there's a lot of labor trafficking as well. But they're promised good jobs. They come here, their passports are confiscated. The next thing they know, they're in different homes, and then they're told they have to pay their way out. Oh, and by the way, if you want to quit, we're going to go kill your, mother and father who live on, whatever street in China or Korea or what have you.
Okay.
So it's the level of violence. Americans, Orange County citizens should be shocked and appalled. And if they want to find out more information, they can go to orangecountyda.org, and they will see press releases upon press release. And we're talking eyes baths. We're talking, and I don't mean to shock your listeners, but we're talking hot iron to the back. We're talking beatings. We're talking, knives and weapons. And the level of violence on these women are appalling and outrageous.
Wow. Well, getting back to the organizations that this is benefiting, I noticed a lot of faith-based organizations. And I wanted to ask you, Deidre, how does your faith play into all of this?
Well, we've always been really open about our faith and try to be encouragers from our platform with our faith. It encourages the body, that there are people who have platforms like ours who are not ashamed to say the name of Jesus.
Amen.
But there are some places that I go around the world where that's not invited. I was in India just a few weeks ago, and I was told very specifically about their laws that have changed. And so that's the time where, as a believer, we have to go in as him. And sometimes it takes words, and sometimes you don't have the words to express. And so you do it through the way you love people.
Right.
And so that's what we want to encourage. It's really tested me on all levels of my faith, and what's really awesome is it's really helped me love people more because the stories that the media portrays is so much geared toward negativism. And when you really go out into some of these places, underdeveloped countries or third world countries, people are amazing and they have incredible potential. So for me, it's really encouraged me.
Good.
It's also encouraged me to know that the body is all over the world. I believe the church is much bigger than we can even imagine. And I'm encouraged by that. So the organizations that I'm partnering with are organizations that have been on a council with us from the beginning. And I've been to most of their organization operations on the ground in other countries. So I know that they're legit. I've met their clients and their, the people that live in their safe homes and that they work with every day. Agape International, A21, iSanctuary. iSanctuary is actually here in OC,
Orange County.
And all of these folks that are groups, partners with us for this event, are doing some of the most incredible work. There are many others, too. I mean, there are some that are coming to us in response to this whole campaign who I'd never heard of, who are doing amazing things.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to continuing to learn who's doing the different parts of this fight. But my idea with this campaign is that we use the sports platform to forge an alliance amongst all the groups who are fighting so that we can fight together.
Yes.
And the bottom line for me is this. It's human trafficking, it's soliciting of persons, it's modern day slavery, I mean, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's anything that's compromising the value of another human being is just not okay.
Right.
It's not okay with me. I hope it's not okay with anybody else.
Anybody listening, I'm sure it's not. No.
Yeah, and I mean, that means us stripping off judgment. There's prostitutes who are getting, or I would say women who are prostituting, that are getting charged with this activity when really that's not how it started at all. It started by a trafficking, situation. And so there's things that I've learned along the ways and places that I've gone around the world that I've seen things that I'm just not okay with. And apathy is expensive and it's repulsive.
Yeah.
And I feel like, even Susan saying some of those striking things, anything that does that on the inside of us should compel us to do something. And I believe that there's something for everyone to do in this fight of human trafficking. But the number one thing I believe in my heart of hearts that will help eliminate some of the things that are going on is through prevention, awareness and education.
Sure.
So that's where being with people like Susan is so helpful because, they're in this every day.
Yeah, they're in the thick of it.
They know what's going on. What are the victims? What are the activities?
They have a plan.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure you work with a lot of organizations. Here at K-Wave, we work with a lot of different organizations over sex trafficking. A lot of the churches and most of the missions pastors in churches are charged with this because it's so prevalent now.
And that's exactly our resources arm is working with the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force is very different in the sense that we have law enforcement, both federal, state, and local. And we also have partners who are helping victims directly. And that's where people like Deidre come in. And for example, her other organization is called Open Gate International, and they actually train our survivors with culinary training. They just started floral training. They're going to give them a way out because a lot of our victims just cannot even imagine in their hearts or brains that there's an alternative. And people like Deidre are giving them an alternative to have a respectable and really fulfilling job.
Well, and I think that's one of the things. I just heard recently about a local ministry here in Orange County that is helping the women after they're removed from the trafficking. They're helping them with housing. They're helping them with jobs. They're helping them. And I hadn't heard that before. Now you're just sharing also that you know of organizations like that too. But it's not just, hey, great, we rescued this young lady out of, this horrible situation. Okay, great, have a good life. No, I mean, they need more help than that. And I'm glad to hear that these organizations are helping. Deidre, I want you to tell me a little bit about Open Gate International. I looked on the website. It says that you are the founder and the CEO. How long have you had that?
We just started that. Really, it was birthed from all this global travel that I was doing. And we just started our first program January 17th of this year. I hired an incredible chef who really could work anywhere in any five-star restaurant. I mean, he's quite brilliant, but he really has a heart to serve. He actually, I felt like the Lord prepared him in advance before working for me. He had an organization where he trained up refugees, and he placed 450 refugees into jobs in Boise, Idaho.
Oh, wow.
And so he's now on staff with Open Gate International. We have Judy Lamborn, who is our life skills and mentorship director. She's also a pastor. And so what happens is we've developed a curriculum for training in the culinary arts because there are a lot of jobs, that are available. So what we do is we invite vulnerable populations in. For instance, we had people who have just come out of prison. We've had traffic victims. We have had at-risk youth and the homeless population. And we invite them in for an opportunity to be trained, and then we advocate strongly for their employment with different relationships that we have.
Okay.
Susan just mentioned we just launched a floral program with Square Root Company, and they've been amazing. They wrote up a 16-week curriculum. So, one of the, I'll just give you an example. There was a young girl, and she's been on my heart a lot lately, but we just graduated her. She is this precious, probably in her young 30s, and she was captured, and she was a drug mule for the Mexican mafia, as well as sex trafficked. And they kept her in holes, dug holes and dropped her in them so that she wouldn't escape. And it just crazy stuff you would think you were watching on a movie. And she just graduated through our program. Lovely person, her in-laws basically casted her out of the family. She hasn't had connection with her kids for quite some time, living on the sofa of a friend, just really down and out stuff. And my job, I feel like my job, especially as a believer, but from my position, is I want to see people maximize who God created them to be.
Amen.
The fullness of it. And so even somebody like that, I can hear her story and think how horrible it is, but I'm not okay with it, and I'm going to make sure that I intervene in whatever the enemy's trying to steal from her and get her to the place that, God would have created her for our generation, for now. And even her testimony can be used, to help other people. So it's those kind of things where I kind of just sit back and marvel at the love of God to be able to allow me to even be in a position to serve somebody who's been so hurt. But because of the life skills and mentorship program that we offer, she is able to deal with the bitterness and how to forgive. She said, how do I forgive somebody that did that to me?
Yeah.
And we're able to take her through just a really God foundation. How does God say that we need to forgive people?
Right.
How does that healing happen in us? And teach her how that happens, so that she can forgive the people who did this to her. And so healing can happen in the fullness therein and who she is. So I'm just kind of marveled. Like, I just sit back and me and Jesus have laughs about what he's done with my life. But Open Gate International is here in Orange County, out in Costa Mesa. We run our culinary program. And we're thrilled to be here. We love serving the people. We invite them in, say, hey, your slate is as white as snow for us. It's a clean slate. You come in. We treat them like students and professional people and give them dignity and respect. And they leave changed people.
Good. It sounds like they flourish from that giving back of the respect that was taken from them. And I love what you said about how Jesus just has the opportunity to change their lives, because that's what we're about here as a ministry. We faithfully proclaim the gospel for changed life purposes, for the glory of God. And I love that God has given you that platform, and you're using it. You're taking that opportunity. And Susan, just so happy to have you at the DA's office just working on this. We have a couple of minutes left, and I want to give you guys each an opportunity to say anything else that's on your heart about the event or about this initiative.
Well, I want to thank the Angels and Mr. Moreno and Tim Mead for having the courage and really they're innovators. And it's a difficult subject. I want to thank them for giving us this opportunity, and I look forward to the Orange County DA's office. Look forward to working with groups like Deidre's group, Open Gate International, Strike Out Slavery, to keep our message going. Because it's not enough to just prosecute these people, but we must restore the victims.
Yeah.
Amen. I just want to say, like, when it comes to human trafficking, like anything, I'm for everyone. The bad guys don't wake up and just decide to be bad guys. I mean, something perpetuates their crime and their habits and things that really are repulsive. To know that a grown man could wake up one day and want to go purchase a virgin in another country, that's not okay. Something happened. And I believe that men are victims at some level too. And so even though there's justice that needs to be served, I believe that the people who go to prison need also rehabilitation and some kind of counsel, because I do know men who have been in prison and found Christ there. And are truly repentant for what they have done and know that it's wrong. But I want to just encourage listeners to advocate for something. I am a firm believer, if you do nothing about anything, then you're just part of the problem. And that's the reality. And I believe that we all have gifts and talents they're put in us so that we can share them with people for this generation right now and impact somebody else. So that's my greatest encouragement. And then also to come out and just support
Right.
all of the efforts that are happening for Strike Out Slavery on September 16th. And for the price of a ticket for the game, they can actually come and enjoy a concert and get the family festival and educate your family in a safe environment with groups who genuinely care about this issue.
Right. Well, that's great. Thank you so much, ladies. I want to encourage our listeners to go to strikeoutslavery.com for all the information on the event and to come out to Angel Stadium on September 16th and support this great ministry, this great initiative, this great work that's happening. Again, I'm your host, Mark Schaefer, for the Update program. Thank you for joining us this morning, and God bless.
You've been listening to the Update program. The views and opinions expressed on the Update are not necessarily those of the staff, management, sponsors, or ownership of the station. We welcome your thoughts. Send them to Update Program, 3000 West MacArthur, Suite 500, Santa Ana, California, 92704. Thank you for listening, and God bless.